It's a logical fallacy to say just because we don't understand these two different things that they must be the same thing. Yeah, I often notice it in books about Eastern religion. If you pick up a book, often in the introduction, it'll say something like the Buddha or Lao Tzu or somebody anticipated quantum physics 2,000 years ago. And it's almost like a requirement that some paragraph about that be included. Well, first of all, I should say that quantum mechanics certainly is important in cells and everything because matter, the properties of atoms, these things are determined by quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics wants to collapse to a very classical behavior. So only under very extreme conditions and small structures have these kind of quantum behaviors been able to be simulated. So the brain is this warm, wet thing that it just looks very inhospitable from that point of view. So the claims seem to be that, well, I guess there's different claims, but some are that consciousness cannot be explained without quantum mechanics, would be one idea, or that quantum physics or particle physics somehow is a manifestation of ideas that were discovered long ago. So this famous book in the genre, The Tao of Physics, is pretty much, that's what it's devoted to. And then there was another book that came out shortly thereafter called The Dancing Wu-Li Masters, which also equated quantum physicists with Eastern religion. So those two were bestsellers, and then that kind of set the tone for things. But it actually goes back even further. So Niels Bohr, for instance, one of the early quantum mechanics discoverers, he had a coat of arms which had the Tai Chi symbol, the yin yang symbol on it. So because he I think because he pioneered this idea of complementarity within quantum physics, and he had this kind of philosophical bent. So I think there's some antecedents. There's a notion that if we observe something, we disturb it, which is, we often see that in daily life. And then that sounds a lot like the uncertainty principle in quantum mechanics. Yes. Right. Roger Penrose had this idea that there had to be quantum mechanics involved in consciousness as a way, I think, to have free will, so that in classical physics everything is in principle deterministic, and so that seems to counter the idea of free will. And so one way out would be quantum mechanics, which introduces an intrinsic randomness. And so then he identified, at least at one point, I don't know if he still holds this, that the structure in the cells, microtubules, might be the thing that involves quantum mechanics. And I believe he went beyond just thinking quantum mechanics, but a more speculative realm of quantum gravity. So the unification between Einstein's theory of gravity and quantum mechanics. I think it's partly attractive to people who are trying to promote Eastern religion, for instance. They see the power of science, and there's a kind of physics envy going on. So they can hitch a ride by saying, oh, physics is this very respectable field, and even it says that so meditation is worthwhile, whatever. So there's kind of some salesmanship going on there. And you see that sometimes very explicitly in different religious groups. But, and then there's more subtle kind of connections that are being made too. I don't think it's been detrimental to physics. People kind of laugh off these claims, and a lot of silly things are said about science. So this is kind of in the noise compared to other things. But it might be more harmful to contemplative studies, at least in trying to establish it as a respectable field of study.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that Brown has gone in this direction, a more biological direction, psychological. Those seem like the real science that needs to be, if you want to apply science to contemplative studies, that's the way to go. So, so it's sort of ironic that I'm involved with the contemplative studies concentration, but it's not because of quantum mechanics.